Hello, my name's Andrew Davis of Durham University. I want to talk a little bit about a piece of educational neuroscience research. Taylor et al. 2017 claimed to have investigated two different ways of teaching reading. They make significant use of neuroscience. Note how I report their claim. They claim to have investigated ways of teaching reading. But have they? It depends what you mean by reading. Let's assume that reading involves getting meaning from text. I do hope you think this is a reasonable assumption. If so, these researchers haven't investigated ways of teaching reading at all. Let me explain. Our empirical researchers claim to have taught 24 English-speaking adults to read two sets of 24 novel words. These words were written in two artificial languages. The meanings of the words were said to be what they labelled or referred to. These were 6 fruit, vegetables, vehicles, animals and tools, including axe, spanner and camel. These things were shown in simple pictures. In one of the artificial languages, the training given to the adult victims focused on print sound mappings. This training was associated by the researchers with phonics approaches to the teaching of reading. In the other artificial language, the adult victims were directed towards print meaning mappings, and these were linked by our authors to balanced literacy methods of teaching reading. They believed that balanced literacy approaches emphasized whole word reading methods, and these methods, in their view, don't focus on letter sound mappings or phonics. The artificial languages had simple and straightforward letter sound links, unlike English. The researchers made lots of references to two pathways in the brain, the ventral and dorsal pathways. The researchers identified the dorsal pathway in the brain as implicated when readers process letter-sound associations, phonics, and the ventral pathway as implicated when readers focus on word meaning links, whole word balanced literacy approaches. They investigated whether the two training regimes were differentiated in their effects on activity in the dorsal and ventral pathways during the reading aloud and reading comprehension tasks. With the phonics group, how would dorsal activity reduce as the subjects became used to reading aloud the made-up words? How would such a reduction in activity compare with any reduction in the ventral pathway in the group using the print to meaning approach, the so-called balanced literacy method? It turned out that the ventral pathway was still active over a period of time when readers were engaged in the print meaning approach. In comparison, the dorsal pathway was less active once the readers had settled down with the letter sound association or phonics approach. So the brain had to make less effort, so to speak, once the phonics training had taken effect, in comparison with the print meaning training. Accordingly, the researchers concluded that print sound training, phonics, was superior to print meaning training, balanced literacy. So, let's have a closer look at their conception of meaning. The meaning of axe was a tool represented by a picture. Consider the following bread and butter examples of sentences in which the word axe occurs. This axe is blunt. They wanted to axe Jim's section. She always has some axe to grind. They waited for the axe to fall. The rumour spread that an axe murderer was roaming the village. Only the first example seems reasonably close to how the authors of our paper see meaning. It is almost as if the authors subscribe to the Fido theory of meaning, long the subject of division in analytical philosophy, and rightly so. For the purposes of this research, axe just functions as a label for an axe out there in reality. Yet, we have axe as a verb and as an adjective. Even when still a noun, it may not refer to a physical axe. You only said that because you have an axe to grind. Words frequently occur in idiom and metaphor. The way they mean, then, is a far cry from meaning conceptualized as mere labelling. Mere labelling is meaning in this research. Indexicals such as I, here, and now refer to people, places, and times, but they mean different people, places, and times depending on contexts. What about the it in It Is Raining? Words play various syntactical roles. Prepositions and adverbs, for instance, could not mean by referring to items. Moreover, much language is idiomatic or figurative. Familiar examples include bucket in She Kicked the Bucket, or wolf in Damien was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Reading a real language involves linking text on paper to words understood when heard in speech, often referred to as listening comprehension. Listening comprehension involves the ability to recognize meaning in an increasingly large range of speech contexts. Now, such recognition invariably involves knowledge of empirical reality. Searle ponders uses of cut in Sam cut the grass, Sam cut the cake, Bill cut the cloth, and I just cut my skin. The grass may be cut in various ways, but almost certainly not with a knife, while the cake will not be sliced with a lawnmower. We add distinctive meanings to cut as we read each sentence. To do so, you must draw on knowledge of the world. Hence, accessing meaning in this real sense would require activation of brain areas over and above those ventral pathways. One well-known neuroscientist comments, quote, "Memory depends on several brain systems working in concert across many levels of neural organization." So, the meaning of meaning in the research I'm examining bears little relationship with meaning proper. It seems to be radically confused and dangerously simple. The authors subscribed to a version of the so-called simple view of reading. This says that reading amounts to decoding times listening comprehension. Decoding involves blending letter sounds, k, at, cat. However, decoding and listening comprehension are not independent of each other, as the simple view of reading and our researchers seem to assume. Readers often must not only make an initial attempt to blend sounds, they have to move to the meaning of the rest of the sentence and or the surrounding non-verbal context to access a particular word and how to pronounce it. My researchers are well aware that they are investigating an explicitly artificial situation, quote, a laboratory analogue of reading acquisition, end of quote. Psychology often does this, yet here the artificial restrictions in their investigations have led them to work with a wholly inappropriate notion of meaning. This point, in my view, comprehensively undermines any value this research might have been thought to possess. Thank you.